Well, I think the one fundamental piece that the book is built off of is why calories matter, and like understanding how to use that to your advantage rather than living in denial of it. Because a lot of diets are really like you talked about, that you use this analogy, like a lot of diets, it's like there's this Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, and that
Yes.
Wizard of Oz is always a calorie deficit of all
Yes.
these diets. So what your book basically does is give people a clear starting point, like the 10% or 10 times body weight, um, a starting point for using those, like finding a calorie number to follow and then adjusting from there. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Oh, okay. So I'll give you an example. I train a guy who does IT. And one day he came to the gym and we were kidding around because, I'm really twitchy and I'm bopping around all over the place. And it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And my total step count, I didn't do a workout at all, was like 12,500 steps. I didn't do any cardio, no walking. That's just what I do, is I'm bouncing around all over the gym. He's an IT guy, and basically he'd been up since like 5 a.m. that morning. And he had 1,250 steps from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. I had over 12,000 steps from 6 a.m. till 4 p.m. That's obviously someone whose multiplier would be low, that current body weight times 10, and that's in pounds, by the way, not kilograms. If you're watching this and you follow the metric system, just multiply it times 2.2. That's all. But that's someone obviously would need a lower caloric multiplier because his energy output isn't that high, right? Whereas mine, from not even having done a workout yet, is fairly high just because my non-exercise activity thermogenesis, my NEAT, is off the charts. So the idea is you want to start somewhere. And who knows? Hey, maybe that guy could lose weight on current body weight times 10. I always try to tell people, you try to lose weight on the biggest and lowest multiplier you can. So if you're a very big person and you have a lot of room to work with, and I have a whole analogy with London broil and baby back ribs that I can get into later on that, but I don't go on too much of a tangent. But if you're a large person and say you weigh 300 pounds, well, that's got you at 3,000 calories per day. You have so much leeway in terms of fiber and protein and vitamins and nutrients in 2,000 calories or 2,400 calories a day. You probably could afford to do current body weight times 8 if you're a 300-pound person, and you still wouldn't wind up with a nutritional deficiency. But let's say you're a 120-pound person. Good luck getting all the nutrients you need at 1,200 calories a day, right? So you may need a slightly higher multiplier so you can meet your basic nutritional needs. And yeah, your weight loss may not be as great, but you only weigh 120 pounds. What are you expecting? To lose weight, to become inert? I mean, it's like, so I always tell like bigger people, look, if you can get away with the lower multiplier because you have so many more calories to play with, fantastic. You'll still lose weight. If you're a 300-pound person, you'll probably still lose weight on 3,000 calories a day if you're moderately active. But if you can afford to take that bigger deficit, fantastic. Likewise, if you're someone who really struggles with dieting, try to get away with the biggest multiplier you can, because that'll give you the most food and make the diet more sustainable. If you're the kind of person, and notice how I'm getting very individualized here. This doesn't say Shank's religion and then says shut up and do what I say. I know that sells a lot nowadays, but that's not. Again, I wrote a book based on what I've seen work in the gym over 24 years, and everyone does this shut up. It makes about as much sense as going to the Middle East and saying, here's the way religion should be done. We know how that works out, not too well, right? Because we know different things work for different people. So some people who need to be motivated, they try to get away with a much smaller multiplier so they can lose more weight quickly. That can backfire on you. But again, it's all these different things to figure out your multiplier. I always say start with 10. That gives you a starting point from which you can adjust from there. So the general rules is, if you're very inactive, go with the lower multiplier, 8 or 9. If you're very active, you could have, Tour de France riders, their multiplier is like 20 to 25 per day, right? Maybe even more. If you're a big person, you can use a lower multiplier, 8 or 9, because that'll give you a bigger caloric deficit and won't affect you because you'll get your nutrients in. If you're a smaller person, you might need to use a higher multiplier to get your basic nutrients in, and you'll just have a slower rate of weight loss. So it's all of that summed up in start at 10 and figure out how it applies to you. And even then, I would say everything I just said is nonsense. I think you should start at 10 and then see how it applies to you as an individual. Don't just start out and assume that current body weight times 8 or current body weight times 12 is right for you, because it may not be. I mean, that's how individual thing. There was an article Lyle McDonald once wrote talking about how different gut microbiome might affect